Welcome to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Here's your host, the Bitcoin Boomer himself, Gary Leland.
And welcome to another episode of the Bitcoin Boomer Show. I'm your host, Gary Leland, and our goal here is to teach or educate you about Bitcoin. That's it, to teach you about Bitcoin. I'm not trying to sell you any Bitcoin or anything like that. I just want you to know about Bitcoin. If you watch this show every week, pretty soon you're going to find out you know a lot about Bitcoin. So do watch or listen to our show in future. We do have today, we have Terrance Yang, Managing Director at Swan Bitcoin on our show. This is going to be a great conversation. Stephanie, my great producer over here, we're in Dallas, Fort Worth. Stephanie, you pull up the bios on these people and put everything together. What'd you think of Terrance's bio, and you have any questions for him?
Yeah, so kind of front and center of Terrance's Twitter or X profile is Terrance Bitcoin, then something that I'm not familiar with, NGU Hard Money. So I'm like, question mark, what is that? Because it seems important to him and to probably people who read that. So NGU, what is that?
Okay, well, so I will ask him. I think I know what NGU is, but I'm going to ask him to make sure that I'm on track and see what NGU is for Stephanie. Like I said, one of our things here we really want to do is just teach you about Bitcoin. That's it. I know I say this over and over and over, but it's so true. I think Bitcoin is the future. I think it's hard money. I think it's going to change the world. I think the US dollar is in trouble. We've just been printing so much of it. And I think the safety net, or the thing that will help us and prevent the whole thing collapsing, everything, is Bitcoin. The dollar may last a long, long time. I'm not saying the dollar is going to fold or disappear tomorrow. It's a world currency, and because it is a world currency, it's in a unique situation compared to most monies, and it could last a lot longer. So whether the dollar stays here and Bitcoin stays here too, or whether the dollar disappears and Bitcoin replaces it someday, any way you look at it, in my book, Bitcoin is here, and it's pretty much here to stay. Even if you shut down the internet to get rid of Bitcoin, once you turn it back on, Bitcoin would be there. And I don't think there's any way that the internet is going to get shut down worldwide. So Bitcoin, in my opinion, is pretty much here to stay. But these are just the thoughts of an old boomer. Okay, so we'll be right back after these words from our sponsor with Terrance Yang, and we're going to talk about Swan Bitcoin and all the stuff they're doing, and of course, Bitcoin. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor. Please stay tuned. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. As I said earlier, I'm your host, Gary Leland, and we have a great guest for you today. You know, the purpose of this show is just to teach you about Bitcoin, what's going on, just to help educate you. I said, I don't have any Bitcoin I want to sell you. I'm not selling mine, but there are people who will sell them. And today we have Terrance Yang, from the Managing Director at Swan Bitcoin, on the show. We're going to ask him a lot of questions, learn about Bitcoin, a lot of stuff to go over the show today. Terrance, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Gary. Great to see you.
It's excellent to see you. You know, I get to see you at least once a year in person at the Pacific Bitcoin Conference, which is a great conference that you guys put on out in Santa Monica. But before we go any further, how about give everybody a quick bio on who is Terrance Yang? Tell us so people know.
Sure. So I'm the son of two teachers. Fast forward, I went to Harvard Law School, worked on Wall Street as a lawyer and then business person at places like Merrill Lynch in New York, the headquarters, in institutional, working on complicated or more regulated financial products. Those are very high margin, good for my ego and pocket, bad for my kind of sense of purpose, I will say. So we had a lot of fun doing that, but Bitcoin, I discovered in 2012, ignored it like many people do the first time. In 2014, I got back into it and was one of the first batch of mentors at Plug and Play Bitcoin Accelerator. Plug and Play is a Silicon Valley sort of startup funder. They have real estate to house a lot of startups, and they're really strong at corporate and government kind of VCs and entities kind of supporting startups. So anyway, so I invested in Bitcoin startups then on the theory, instead of Bitcoin, on the theory that I didn't know how to self-custody. If I put it at a Mt. Gox, they would go bankrupt. I was right about that. What I was wrong about was if you did have Bitcoin at Mt. Gox, that would be like a 10-year hold because they'd go bankrupt and you'd hold your Bitcoin and it would be worth significantly more. Not as much as you'd like if you actually held it, because at some point they kind of cut off the time and you're like, okay, the frozen in time, we're going to count the Bitcoin as of this date, much lower price than today. Anyway, so my theory was if I invested in Bitcoin startups, if Bitcoin didn't work, because I was a blockchain, not Bitcoin guy, I didn't get it. These startups could always pivot to whatever coin or whatever was working at the time, whatever was in fashion or had product market fit. Big mistake. I love the companies I invested in, and they were fantastic founders, but economically would have been much better just to buy and hold Bitcoin. My orange pill moment in terms of actually understanding Bitcoin, I would say came during and arguably after the block size wars. So years later, I was a big blocker. I apologize for that. I was influenced by some portfolio companies that were big blockers because, they ran businesses in Bitcoin. And at the time, the thinking was, well, we want lower transaction fees. And the easiest way to get that is to increase the block size. Big mistake. Bitcoin is really about hard money, and that's something we can talk about later. But I would say, yeah, orange pill moment is circa 2017, 2018, but didn't really, even though I understood it, I still didn't really understand it, you could argue, in terms of position sizing and having enough Bitcoin till later. So yeah, don't rob me, don't dox me. I don't have that much Bitcoin, allegedly.
Well, you got a couple of things that you mentioned that I want to go into. Now, first of all, you said hard money. Now, Stephanie wants to know what NGU Hard Money means. That's on your
Sure. Yes.
Twitter page.
Thank you. So this is something I always try to simplify things to kind of catchphrases to get people to kind of think.
Of assets you can't really
does number
self-custody,
go
like
up? I
equities
did
and
not come
bonds
up
and
with
things
it.
like
It's
that. But there are a handful of assets like.
It's a popular sort of trope, or not trope, but popular acronym in Bitcoin for Bitcoin is number go up technology, NGU. So NGU Hard Money, what I realized from talking to a lot of the new people who have come into Bitcoin, and some of them are pretty well known on Bitcoin Twitter, crypto Twitter, whatever you want to call it. People like Gary Cardone and Fred Krueger, they're very focused on number go up. And I actually do think that Bitcoin is number go up if you kind of continue to make hard money the predominant or overwhelmingly predominant use case. We know that Bitcoin can be used for a lot of things. You've been around Bitcoin longer than pretty much any of us listeners and speakers. And Bitcoin has had its moments where it's periodically had a lot of people put things on Bitcoin and using Bitcoin for non-monetary purposes. Could be data, could be art, could be JPEGs, whatever. But that's not what gets the number to go up. What gets the number to go up is the $900 trillion in assets not allocated into Bitcoin. Much of it is in real estate, much of it is in bonds, currencies. If you can get some of that demonetized and reallocated to Bitcoin, that is how Bitcoin number really goes up. And that to do that, Bitcoin the narrative has to be simple to understand, and it has to be incredibly hard money, predominantly hard money, because with hard money, meaning incredibly finite supply, you cannot have that unless it's decentralized, meaning it's hard to stop and hard to take away, hard to confiscate, hard to censor. That's it. We can go into detail on the nitty-gritty and how that works, but as long as Bitcoin in the minds of its holders and in the public psyche is hard money, especially among those who own or control the vast majority of 900 trillion. Bitcoin's upside is almost infinite. It's very, very high, hundreds of trillions of dollars of market cap. So much bigger than NVIDIA, much bigger than Apple, much bigger than Microsoft.
And people are expecting big numbers for the next 5 years. I mean, of course, we've seen a lot of bull markets, and we've seen it go up fantastic amounts, over cycles, past cycles. And maybe percentage-wise, I don't know how big it'll be this cycle, but now we're talking big numbers that it's starting at, with it being $58,000 a day. It doesn't have to go up 1,000% to be a lot of money. Now we're talking about, well, for the people who got in early, or got in even in the last 4 years, or even this year. I mean, it's just never too late to get into Bitcoin. But I didn't even get the NGU number go up there. So when she said that, I said, "Oh, that's a good question," because I don't even know what he's meaning. I knew what hard money was.
You need to change that if even you didn't get it. Yeah, it's maybe not used as much. It was used a lot in 2021 by some folks like Pierre Richard.
Oh, I'm familiar with it. I just didn't.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, I just didn't get it. So and that's probably a boomer thing. I always blame anything on being a boomer.
Not at all.
That works out real well for me. I really take advantage of that. People open doors for me, help me carry stuff. They do all kinds of stuff for me. So I enjoy being a boomer. I let people take care of that. So, so I think that's pretty amazing there. I want to get into a lot of stuff with you, and too much for this section. And now, something Swan, I think we can get into this real quick. What do you think? Let me ask you this. What is driving Swan right now? What is driving Swan? You got about 30 seconds left just to give us an idea, and then we'll come back to that after the break.
Yeah, sure. So the number one thing driving Swan is everybody who works there top to bottom, and we're a very flat organization, is on a mission to make Bitcoin succeed and have more people buy Bitcoin. I think a lot of us want it to happen before governments and Wall Street buys Bitcoin. So that is our mission, and a lot of us work for way below market. There's no other company like that, I think.
So everybody.
I mean, there are Bitcoin companies like that, but outside of Bitcoin only companies, there's nobody's like that. So the AI getting paid millions of dollars a year, right? So
people are willing to do more for less because of what it is. It's Bitcoin. We'll be right back with more from Terrance after this word from our sponsor. So please stay tuned. Welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Today's guest is Terrance Yang, Managing Director at Swan Bitcoin. Terrance, thanks for coming back, or thanks for coming on, I guess I should say. Let's get back into what you were saying. So before we went to the break about the people at Swan, they're Bitcoiners. They're not crypto people. They're Bitcoiners. Is that a requirement at Swan that you be a Bitcoiner?
Yes, I would expect that might change a little bit, where as we go public and eventually expand. But we're at 200 plus Bitcoiners. I think by most people's definitions, we're pretty maxi. Corey doesn't like that term. I don't either, because maxi was a derogatory term created by Vitalik Buterin, who's created a lot of other terrible things like Ethereum.
But have you noticed how Bitcoiners have a tendency to take insults and go with them and going, hey, there's nothing wrong. Like, for instance, Maximus is what he called true Bitcoiners, and they were like, yeah, that sounds about right. And then, 2 years ago, we had that monster created that was eating energy, and that was supposed to be an insult. And everybody started going, oh, I like that. I'll go with that. So true Bitcoiners are pretty proud of the fact that they are focused on the real hard money, and they know what it is, and they just grab the say, I'll go with that. So I always find that amazing how we seem to take all that stuff in pride.
Yeah, it's mostly good. I think as we try to cross the chasm to the mainstream, and remember, 8 billion people own 0 Bitcoin. and $900 trillion of assets are not allocated to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a 1 trillion plus asset, doing fantastic in its young existence, but so much more potential.
There is so
So
much.
if there is a risk that if you kind of overdo the embracing of insults, things that sound insulting to most people, and it's like, why are you guys so calling yourselves a maximalist? That's, you sound like an extremist or crazy person, a psycho. It can create an image in people's minds that we are the other. We are not normal, and we're kind of this weird group of weird cult that embraces extremes.
But I've had several occasions where I've been somewhere and someone's come up to me at a conference that was like, or something, and they'll start trying to tell me, like two of them will come up, a guy and his girlfriend or wife or whatever, and he'll start trying to convince me I need, because I'm an old guy, I'm an old boomer, and they figure I don't know much, I guess, about their coin that they're pushing, and the wife will go, this guy's a maxi, you're wasting your time on him. And so it's kind of nice to be known as a, yeah, it saves you a lot of time.
Yeah, they're using maxi, crypto people do this especially, and no coiners, they use the term maxi as closed-minded.
Yeah, which is fine with me because I am kind of closed-minded when it comes to that. Hey, a lot of things I want to talk about with Swan, so I'm going to move through some of these because I didn't even know some of these. Now, you guys are into IRAs now. You're into vaults now. You're into miners. You're into a lot of stuff. So let's go over vaults first. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, sure. Swan Vault is our 2 of 3, for now, 2 of 3 only, multi-sig collaborative custody product. What I love about it is when we first launched, I asked our engineers and our product people, why didn't you just copy what the leading competitors did, right? And you're having this thing where Swan owns the second key and the default second key. By default, when you want to move your Bitcoin, you insert your one of your 2 private keys. The other key will be the Swan key by default. Why don't you just make it like the others where you insert your 2 private keys? That's what people are used to. And they said they thought about that, but it's actually better for the customer, better for Bitcoin and Bitcoiners to have Swan be the default second key. It's free, or as my late dad would say, prepaid, because we do charge you a fee, but there's no per use fee. So you could move your Bitcoin all the time with Swan as the default second fee, no additional charge, right? Prepaid or free. And you're more likely to what? With your 2 private keys, you're more likely to keep them geographically separate, not one at home in the kitchen, one at home in the living room, but one at home in the kitchen and one at your aunt's place that you trust, or a PO box or safe deposit box or something like that, one at work, one at home. So it's geographically separated. Why? Because what if there's a fire? What if there's a burglary? What if you're robbed at home and they take your 2 private keys? Then they immediately move your Bitcoin. It's gone forever. Not your keys, not your coins. And once you lose 2 of your keys, once 2 of your keys are compromised and someone else has your 2 of your keys, your Bitcoin's gone. Because if they know what they're doing, and they do, because how else would they get 2 of your keys? They're gonna move it to their wallet, and just like physical cash, it's gone. So
I want to make sure I'm clear. So if I have some Bitcoin and I want to move it, I put in my key, and then I have to get you to put your key in too to move it. So
that's the default.
Yeah.
You can always, because it's 2 of 3 and you control your Bitcoin, you have 2 out of 3 keys. You can always use the 2 keys, right? You could keep one in the kitchen, one in the living room, even though Swan is the default second key, or one in the office, one at home. And you can still use your 2 private. You can always use 2 of your keys to move your Bitcoin.
Okay.
But by default, because you can be in 2 places at once, if you keep it geographically separated, your 2 keys the way it's supposed to be, by default, it's more convenient to use Swan and not have to put
someone breaks in my house there and holds me, a $5 wrench attack. I'm going, I only got one here. May cause me to go to the hospital, but I only have one. So
I find you pretty credible.
yeah. If they know anything, they're going to
Explain to
know.
the person, you just show them this clip or our swan.com/vault ad, what that explains this stuff.
So
Or some-
if I want to move, let's say I want to move a Bitcoin, and I got one key at my house and one key's in Washington, so I put in my one key. Do I just call up on the phone, or how do I get you guys to put your key in?
Oh, you just go online. We may or may not do extra security measures, right, to make sure it's you. This might include video verification. Our risk and security team is state of the art. We have Scott Kisser, who's a chief information security officer. We have Desh and others who are fantastic. They bring a lot of Kohane type of energy. No, I will not explain that because that's an inside joke to my Swan friends. And basically, we have incredible people making sure that even if one of your keys are somehow stolen or in the wrong hands, that when they come to Swan Vault and try to, because they can't get your second key because it's in the state of Washington or Washington, D.C., I'm not sure which Washington you meant. But anyway, if they only have one of your keys and they realize it's a Swan Vault, they go to your Swan Vault and try to move it, it's going to be very hard if they're doing something a little off. But if it's, nothing horrible, but it's just like if there's, they're doing it from China or some country that you're not normally at, right? And we know you use a VPN says that you're in France all the time or whatever, then maybe that might trigger something. I believe that's how it works, but yeah, we need to.
But I can change it. I can change it to use my 2 and not be dependent on you if I want. That's just the
anytime.
default setting.
Yeah, you could choose to do that. Yes, you could. Yeah, it's just the way that it's set up. It's default, no charge. Swan is your second key.
Well, that makes more. How long does it take to get a response? If I say I want to move some Bitcoin, how long does it take to get a response? And we got like 30 seconds.
Not long at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I want to make sure it wasn't like 2 days.
unless there's some red flag. Yeah.
Right. Well, that would make sense. Yeah, I want you to slow it down if it's a red flag there. Yeah. Okay. Well, that answers all my vault questions. We're going to take a break, but after this break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about IRAs because Swan's doing IRAs now. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor. More from Terrance. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. I'm your host, Gary Leland. We have a great show going on, learning about Swan Bitcoin from Terrance Yang. Terrance, welcome to the show. We've had quite a few people on here, I think, from Swan, but I seem to have more questions for you that are not our normal about Swan than I did for them. I don't know why. I want to go into IRAs now because Swan is now doing you guys are doing everything. I mean, if it's Bitcoin, you guys are bringing it into your world. I mean, it's kind of like the guy says, this is my world. Your world is anything to do with Bitcoin, it seems right now. You're not pinholing yourself. Tell us about IRAs. What do you guys do with IRAs?
So Swan IRA is a product that I came up with due to customer feedback. I really believe, having worked in startups as an angel investor and lost a lot of money, small LP advisor, mentor, and startup pre-accelerator founder, you have to listen to your customers. So customers, I'd be on Twitter Spaces, talking to friends and Bitcoiner friends in person or whatever, and people would bring up IRAs, and I'd be like, first couple of times, like, okay, that's interesting because it wasn't all the time, and then it just kind of seemed to increase. So I started proactively asking people about it, late night Twitter Spaces or whatever, and people would really wanted IRAs. Bring up. We at Swan, we try a lot of different things. I think like any good startup, and we have a lot of ideas and decide to kind of trial balloon or just talk to people about it. Sometimes we just talk internally and kind of think through things. Would I want this if it were me? but IRAs made the cut, and we're very happy that we've been able to launch it. Incredible team that has done it, from product to engineering to design to operations, client services, onboarding. We have inside sales. They're just incredible team that did this. So it's really all of them and a team effort, and our customers giving us fantastic ideas and feedback. So basically, Swan IRA is best in class. I'm convinced, because I know what our competitors do. I know what we offer. What is our differentiators? We offer much better customer service and onboarding. For example, if you're moving your Bitcoin from another IRA custodian, we can do that. They're not necessarily going to want to let you do that, but a lot of times they have to. So we have a way to, because of our relationships, and we compete and cooperate, because once in a while, right, we do have customers go the other way. It's quite rare. And it's usually not for, I think, long-term good reasons. It might be short-term price motivated, which I think is not good. So we have best kind of customer experience. Then we have the best kind of lawyers and risk managers and security people, making sure that you comply with the Internal Revenue Code, the tax court rulings on related things like physical gold, and can you self-custody physical gold, and things like that. So we're really, really strong on that. We have consensus with lawyers that I've talked to, whether they're Harvard Law classmates, top law firm attorneys that we've engaged, or just top law firms when I'm at their cocktail party and talking late at night and telling stories about things. They all agree. So, and some of our best competitors legally agree with us. So we're the best IRA product by far.
Do you have an IRA like Roth and just a basic IRA?
Roth, yes. Thank you. I'm going to get into that. So Roth and traditional, contribution, rollover, transfer, we do all of that. And we do backdoor Roths or Roth conversions.
Oh.
Currently legal. That's how Peter Thiel was able to turn his startup stock, right? Because Roths are income capped, but through the backdoor Roth, you can put your assets in a traditional IRA, which Peter did, and then backdoor that into a Roth through a conversion. You will owe taxes on ordinary income on the entire amount because you never paid tax on it. So the tax deferral goes away, replaced by pay tax now on your Roth, but not on the big bountiful harvest decades later or years later, hopefully decades later. And in Peter Thiel's case, he put in this startup stock that allegedly was worth not very much, whether it's Palantir, Facebook, or PayPal. And now he has a $5 billion plus Roth IRA.
Oh my gosh.
It's insane.
At my age,
figuring out the law.
Well, I was going to say, at my age of 70, the savings on the Roth, a normal Roth, is not a big deal. Because how long am I going to live? You know what I mean? I might live 10 years. It's not like I'm going to have it in there 30, 40, 50 years.
I live 40 years.
Huh?
You might live 40 years.
I might.
You're getting your son, you're walking.
But I'm saying, what I'm meaning is, with Bitcoin, doing a Roth with Bitcoin, in a matter of 3 years, I'm not saying it will, but it's possible that in a matter of 3 or 4 years, it could make as much as a regular Roth would make in 20 years of another product, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Because the potential profits off of Bitcoin, to me, seem to be much higher than they are off of being a regular, just stocks or something, Am I wrong on that?
Roth? I think the Roth, especially the backdoor Roth, plus Bitcoin equals magic. It's just amazing to have an asset that should grow at a very high rate of return in a way that is tax-free once you pay tax on the small seed and not the big bountiful harvest years or hopefully decades later. Even years later, it can be very good. Obviously, position size correctly. This is something that people like Hafa Zagori and Lynn Alden and others have talked about Sam Callahan. You want to, what does that mean? That means you might have, let's say you have $100,000 and you want to put it all into Bitcoin, but you don't have the confidence, or you don't have that many years because you are older and you don't know when you want to take it out, or when the required minimum distributions occur if it's, you keep it in traditional. But if you're doing an IRA and you might or will need to take out your Bitcoin and sell it for cash, or even if you keep it in Bitcoin, you just are going to need cash at some point. Can you withstand the market volatility of Bitcoin? So if maybe with 100,000, you might not want to have your entire 100,000 in Bitcoin. Maybe you have 40,000 in Bitcoin. But the key is you're confident that you will never sell it unless you really have to or want to buy a second house, to enjoy vacation, or to whatever, to live life. So position sizing is very important. I think it's much better to buy a small amount and then add to it to a level where you can buy and hold it and never sell, except for tax loss harvesting, where you sell and rebuy through Swan. But otherwise, I think it's much better just to start at, let's say 40%, stay at 40%, you're good. Instead of starting at 100%, you don't have the wherewithal, or the laws don't allow you to keep it, in a tax-free way or tax-deferred way for much longer. So you really don't want to be selling Bitcoin.
So
the idea.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I've never sold any of my Bitcoin, so I don't know. I know that I don't sell. Yeah, I don't sell Bitcoin. I mean, I guess I have gone to a Bitcoin show and bought something with Lightning, but that never made it to my cold wallet.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was on my phone, and it never made it to my cold wallet. So I've never pulled anything out of my long storage wallet. Once it goes in there, I'm kind of like scared it's like crack. Once you move it, you've crossed that line, and the next time it's easier to move, kind of like crack. Once you do that crack, the next time it's easier to do crack. And before you know it, you're on crack all the time, or you're moving your Bitcoin all the time.
Yeah.
So I think
most people are like that.
Yeah, so that's why I've never crossed or smoking cigarettes, to be easier. Once you smoke one, it's easier to smoke the next one. Next thing you know, you're doing a pack a day. So I've just stayed away from it completely. Okay, we have another segment with Terrance, so please stay tuned. And on our next segment, we're going to be talking about miners. Swan is now in the mining business, which is really cool. So we'll talk about that when we come back, right after this word from our sponsor. Please stay tuned. And welcome to the Bitcoin Boomer Show as we return with Terrance Yang from Swan Bitcoin. Okay, Terrance, as I said, I want to get into mining now. You guys are even mining, and I think you told me y'all were one of the top 10 miners. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, by exahash.
Yeah. So that's how you would measure it, I would think. So give me the lowdown on, or give everybody the lowdown here on Swan mining.
Yeah, so Swan Mining is quite profitable. We have an excellent team led by Hafa Zagori and Guy Gomes, our Chief Investment Officer and President, respectively. And basically, we've been able to build this very quickly. I'm not on the mining side. We have two divisions at Swan, broadly speaking: institutional, which is primarily mining by revenue, and then retail, which is primarily driven in terms of revenue by private and IRAs and soon to be vault. But in terms of the sheer number and power of the Swan brand, it's powered by the plebs, by a retail arm. So basically, Swan Mining is amazing because we've been able to work with big institutional investors who have invested in us. They realize that we have the expertise to source cheap electricity, to source cheap ASICs, to execute. And we have something called Swan Managed Mining, where we already have hundreds of millions of dollars. This is all public info. So unfortunately, your listeners are not getting anything private from me. And if they want private info or more insights, that you should have Corey or Hafa on your show, and they're excellent. And sometimes I learn some news from them, or maybe they said it before internally at a Swan meeting, and I may have missed it because it might be at an all hands or something like that. But anyway, so we are have hundreds of millions of dollars in Swan managed mining invested by institutional investors who put in at least $100 million. And then they want exposure to Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin mining is very exciting, gives you something a little bit different than owning Bitcoin. So this is only for big institutions that can put in $100 million, totally different from the kind of cloud mining stuff for retail that are pump and dump scams, almost invariably, right? And so basically, they want exposure to mining. They have capital. We have the expertise. They mine with us by giving us the cash, and we kind of give them updates and so forth. So they have great lawyers and great risk managers, these investors, and so that it's kind of a very balanced negotiation. When you have a company like ours and a company like theirs negotiating with each other, it's a very smooth and productive process.
Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, y'all are into everything. Hey, I'm just going to whip through this real quick here because
I would say we test everything. We test or think about everything, and then we pick and choose and stay with what works, and what works we, obviously double down on. So I think we're really good at that because we have killed some products that's going to hurt some people in terms of, they'll be disappointed, but there weren't enough people using it. And we just really have to focus. And the focus is sort of a lot on Swan mining and building out the rest of our institutional arm and the Swan kind of the products that we already talked about.
Well, you've grown a lot since Give Bitcoin. I think that was
Yes.
the original site. The original thing was Give Bitcoin as a way to gift Bitcoin to people. Hey, last night I think you told me you spoke at Santa Monica. Let's talk about that real quick because I think that's pretty exciting. What's going on in Santa Monica with Dumbe and everything?
Yeah, so the key is the vice mayor of Santa Monica and Dumbe came up with a plan for the city of Santa Monica where Dom spoke, Mag spoke at length, and Lisa Huff flew in from Houston, Max flew in from Canada, Asher Hopp, my good friend, came over from Orange County. We had Terrance, Michael, and many others. I don't want to get into all of them because I'm going to miss a few, but I got home and I think I went to sleep around 3:30 a.m. I was so excited. The city council didn't vote on this until after midnight, but they voted 7-0, city of Santa Monica, God bless them, to approve the first in the country city Bitcoin office, Santa Monica Bitcoin office in this case. No other city, county, or state has done this. So what does that mean? This is a zero-cost initiative where they partner with Proof of Workforce led by Don Bay, who's great, as you know. He was the past president of the Santa Monica Firefighters Union and the person who is instrumental, or one of the key people instrumental in getting 3 unions now, all in the United States, to buy and self-custody Bitcoin through union funds. So this is not pensions, but union funds. And he's just an incredibly hard worker. So all the credit is to him, the city council, some of whom had legitimate concerns, right? Because they hear about Bitcoin and scams and people losing money. And are you guys just trying to get our residents to buy Bitcoin? This is all about education, helping the citizens and residents of Santa Monica get jobs, including remote jobs in Bitcoin, and learn about energy mining and Bitcoin mining and how it can load balance energy and so on and so forth, and just promote the city of Santa Monica to people who put on conferences such as this guy. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's awesome, Gary Leland. I keep trying to get him to come to Los Angeles more. He has this incredible conference called BitBlock Boom, and it'd be amazing if he could do something in the city of Santa Monica. Our friend Don Bay could help with introductions to people from the city to help you put on conferences and events in the city of Santa Monica to support the city, which is basically the El Salvador of the United States now, right? If you think about it, they're the most leading, innovative, progressive city in terms of Bitcoin in the entire United States. even though they're liberal and some people call it the People's Republic of Santa Monica, a saying I find hilarious. But they have the foresight, and it's all because of the great city council members and the city staff and the city manager who worked very hard with the great Don Bay to make this happen. I spoke for 2 minutes or less than 2 minutes. Meg spoke for longer, Don Bay and a bunch of us spoke. And we just had incredible firepower, people telling incredible stories and reasons why they support this initiative to have a zero cost Bitcoin office sort of pilot study. There was one person at least who objected in person, who worked at Merrill Lynch. I'm a Merrill Lynch alum as well. We did not overlap because he worked over 50 years ago. But he was basically saying how he worked at Merrill Lynch 50 years ago. And back then there were scams like Avon and Xerox or disappointments, overhyped things. And Bitcoin is a scam and don't do this. And I, because I was the only person who spoke or worked at Merrill. I said, I used to work at Merrill Lynch too, like the gentleman who claimed that this is a scam. I've seen a lot of scams in my life. Bitcoin is not one of them. And then proceeded to reiterate what Asher had said earlier about Fidelity and BlackRock, two major asset managers who manage trillions of dollars each, have Bitcoin ETFs, and you can buy it through a Schwab account. So this is already mainstream and legitimized.
Yeah, so it's hard to believe that people are still calling. There are 11 ETFs, I think, right now, Bitcoin ETFs, that the SEC has approved. So it can't be, I don't think Avon or any of this stuff they're talking about ever got the SEC to approve an ETF. So I think that puts us in a different category. Hey, Terrance, we're about out of time here. So is there anything you want to say before we get out of here? Or where can people follow you?
They can follow me at TY and Clubhouse on Twitter, and email me at swan.com/private/Terrance. And also, if they want to buy Bitcoin, I recommend they do so at Swan using your link, Gary, swan.com/Gary, to get $10 of free Bitcoin.
Sounds good. Terrance, I appreciate you coming on the show so much. It was so great to talk with you. We don't get to talk enough. Usually it's once a year, so this year it's going to be twice. So that's a 100% increase. So I'm hoping the same thing for Bitcoin the rest of the year, another 100% increase. Terrance, thank you so much.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a good day. And everybody, we'll be right back after this word from our sponsor, so please stay tuned for our final notes. Thanks. And welcome back to the show. I hope you've enjoyed today's interview with Terrance. He was quite an educational show, I would guess, learning so much about Swan. I learned things I didn't even know. Steph, what did you think about today's interview, and was there anything that hit you as special?
Yeah, the special hit for me was around the keys that Swan by default has involvement in. Like, we talked about it off camera, but if we can bring it back on camera, the whole like 2 keys, security business.
Well, to move your Bitcoin, you have to use 2 of 3 keys.
Okay, so 3 total.
3 total
out in existence. Okay.
And you have 2, and Swan has 1, and that's the way most companies are. Casa and Unchained, you have 2 and they have 1. So basically, my thought has always been if you lost one or one broke, you had them as a backup. You put your key in and they put their key in wherever they are, and you can move your Bitcoin and have access to it. But Swan sets it up, which means you got to have both your keys close by, in that case. Where Swan has it set up that you have 2 keys and they have 1, but one of theirs is the primary key by default. Now you can go in and change it to be like everybody else's, but by default, you put in 1 key, they put in their key, and you can move your Bitcoin, and that way both your keys aren't at your house. So someone doesn't break in and steal both your keys and then download your Bitcoin.
Everybody's worried about getting stolen from. Like, what are we? I guess we could always bury a key like in your second house in the jungle somewhere or whatever. Yeah. But I guess that makes sense that you want to just have feel safe and safety.
If you're a
nets.
Bitcoiner who's been in it a while and you're responsible for your own Bitcoin, and you'll say you got into it in 2012, you might have $50 million worth of Bitcoin. You are worried about it being stolen.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Okay, as somebody who's trying to get up to that level, I get it now,
Yeah.
but it's like,
Well, before we go any further, I do want to tell everybody to check out my conference, BitBlock Boom. That's at bitblockboom.com. We do a conference every year in Dallas, Texas. It'll be next April, so do check that out. Also, check out my meetup at meetup.com/bitblockboom. Meetup.com/bitblockboom. I do a coffee meetup sometimes in the mornings. This is all in Dallas, Fort Worth. And I also do a barbecue once a month. So do check out meetup.com/bitblockboom. And please check out my Twitter page. If you want to follow me, twitter.com/Gary Leland. Twitter.com/Gary Leland. Say that twice. Make it nice. So I do want to thank everybody for coming and joining us on today's show. Please tell your friends about it. Help us grow this show. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Remember to stack those sats.